Today, let's talk about sleep, but not just getting more hours. We're gonna dive into the right kind of sleep. We're gonna look at the actual biological code your brain runs every single night. And once we deconstruct that system, you can learn how to upgrade it. Let's get into it. I mean, this is the question, isn't it? You get your 7, 8, maybe even 9 hours in bed, but you wake up feeling like you barely slept a wink. If that's you, you're not alone. That feeling of being unrested, it's usually a big red flag that one of your body's critical sleep systems is, well, out of sync. And for so many of us, the fix for that fatigue looks a lot like this. We feel tired, so we grab some coffee to power through the day. But that just leads to a massive crash later on, leaving us even more exhausted than when we started. What if this whole cycle isn't the solution at all, but actually a symptom that we're misunderstanding our own biology? To really get why, we need to look at our first mechanism. Let's call it the caffeine system error. It's basically a glitch we introduce into our own brains when we manually override its natural fatigue signal. It all starts with this one molecule, adenosine. Now, thanks to some foundational research from scientists like Porkka Heiskanen, we know that as you go about your day, as your brain is working, adenosine just slowly builds up. The best way to think about it is like a sleepiness progress bar. The longer that bar gets, the more sleep pressure you feel. It's your body's built-in, non-negotiable signal that it is time to rest. Okay, so this is where caffeine pulls a fast one on your brain. See, your brain has these little parking spots, these receptors that are perfectly shaped for adenosine. When adenosine pulls into the spot, you feel sleepy. But caffeine is a molecular imposter. It looks just similar enough that it can slide right into that parking spot and block adenosine from ever delivering its "you're tired" message. It doesn't actually get rid of the adenosine, it just puts earplugs on your brain so it can't hear the signal. And here's the crucial part. While caffeine is busy blocking all those receptors, the sleep pressure, all that adenosine, is still building up in the background. It's like you're racking up an adenosine debt. So when the caffeine finally wears off, the floodgates just burst open. All of that accumulated adenosine rushes to the now empty receptors, and bam, you get hit with this overwhelming wave of exhaustion. That is the crash. But just managing sleep pressure is only half the battle. Let's move on to our second mechanism, because this is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the brain's deep clean. This is the absolutely critical maintenance cycle that your brain can only run while you're asleep. Get ready for this number because it is just wild. Research from a 2013 paper in the journal Science showed that when you go into deep sleep, the space between your brain cells, it's called the interstitial space, it actually increases by about 60%. Your brain literally changes its own physical architecture every night to get ready for a deep clean. And why does it do this? Well, this expansion creates these much wider channels for something called cerebral spinal fluid, or CSF, to flow through your brain tissue. And we're not talking about a gentle trickle here. This is a powerful flushing process designed to clear out all the junk, all the metabolic byproducts that have built up during the day. This whole cleaning crew has a name. It's called the Glymphatic system. It was discovered back in 2012 by a team led by Dr. Maiken Nedergaard. And this image shows exactly how it works. The CSF flows in, washes through all your brain cells, and carries waste out. And some of the most critical waste it clears is a protein called amyloid-beta, which is the stuff that's strongly linked to Alzheimer's disease. And here is exactly why sleep is completely non-negotiable for this. That same 2013 study found that this cleaning cycle is reduced by about 95% when you're awake. Let me say that again, 95%. That means your brain's waste removal system is running at, 5% capacity during the day? It absolutely has to have the downtime of deep sleep to work properly. Okay, so we've dealt with sleep pressure, we've run the deep clean. What's next? Well, your brain needs to cool down. Seriously. Just like a high-performance computer, it's been running hot all day. This brings us to our third mechanism, the hardware cooling protocol. So your body runs on a really strict 24-hour temperature clock. As research has shown, your core body temp naturally hits its peak in the late afternoon. And then, this is key, it has to start dropping for you to be able to fall asleep. Your brain needs to be on that downward slope to initiate sleep effectively. And that lowest point, the thermal minimum, usually happens just a couple of hours before you wake up. So how does your body actually cool itself down? It's through this really cool process called distal vasodilation. Basically, your body opens up the blood vessels in your hands and your feet, your extremities, and uses them like little radiators to release heat into the air. This is why you might notice your feet getting warm right before you get sleepy. It's a sign your body's cooling protocol has kicked in.
which is a must-have for getting good quality rest.
All right, the final piece of the puzzle. All of these amazing processes need to happen at the right time. And that brings us to our fourth and final mechanism, syncing the master clock. This is all about making sure your brain's internal timer is perfectly aligned with the world outside. Tucked away deep inside your brain is this tiny little cluster of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. This is it. This is your master clock. And its number one way of knowing what time it is, of syncing up with the 24-hour day, is by getting information about light from your eyes.
For pretty much all of human history, the signal was simple, right? You see the low-angled, reddish light of sunset, and that tells your master clock, hey, the day's ending, time to get ready for sleep. And that's the cue to release the hormone melatonin. The problem is, our modern world sends a totally conflicting signal. Bright overhead light from lamps and screens looks a lot like midday sun to your brain, basically screaming, it's still daytime, stay awake. This is a system override, and it actively shuts down melatonin production. And this is not some small, trivial effect. A 2011 study found that just being exposed to normal room light in the hours before bed can delay your melatonin release by an average of 90 minutes, an hour and a half. You might feel ready for bed, but your brain's clock is stuck back in the late afternoon. Now, what's truly amazing is how your brain does this. Some groundbreaking work back in 2002 identified a third kind of photoreceptor in our eyes. These aren't the rods and cones used to see the world. They're called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, or iPRGCs, and their only job is to detect the general brightness of your environment and report that info straight to your master clock. It's a non-visual light detection system, hardwired for the single purpose of telling your body what time it is. So, after diving into all the system errors, the cleaning cycles, the cooling protocols, and the master clock, what can we actually do with all this information? Well, we can take all this science and boil it down into a simple 4-step upgrade manual. Okay, first, to respect your adenosine system, time your caffeine. Cut it off at least 8 to 10 hours before bed so that natural sleep pressure can actually build up. Second, to help your hardware cool down, take a warm bath or shower about 90 minutes before bed. This actually brings blood to the surface of your skin, which helps you shed heat and lower your core temperature. Third, to sync that master clock, get outside and see the sunset. That low-angle light sends a powerful wind-down signal to your brain. And finally, to protect your melatonin, dim the lights inside your house at least 2 hours before you plan to go to sleep. And if you forget everything else, remember this. This is why it all matters so much. As the very researchers who discovered that 60% expansion in the brain put it, true restoration depends on this nightly deep clean. It's fundamental to your neurological health. So it's time to reframe how we think about sleep. It is not passive, it's not lost time. As we've just seen, it is an active, dynamic, and absolutely essential period of biological maintenance. It might just be the most important work your brain does all day long. By understanding these 4 core mechanisms, you now have the tools to work with your biology instead of fighting against it. So the only question left is, which protocol are you going to start with to upgrade your system tonight?